So hi, everyone. Thank you for introducing yourselves. My name is Marissa Yáñez. This is more for anyone that might be watching this recording out there that isn't on the call today. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer for the College of Chemistry at UC Berkeley. And as far as myself, I was a transfer student to UC Berkeley back in the day in engineering, and then got my PhD in biomedical engineering, and was kind of introduced to research later. I did my first research experience in my second summer, which I don't advocate for, because now it's like to get into grad school, they want you to have quite a bit of research, which is one of the reasons why we're starting this research program. And there are many, many more opportunities to do research. So it's really great that all of you are interested in this from now. And especially some of you who are even younger, who are jumping on the research train. Yeah, so this is going to be the first year that we are piloting a exclusive summer research program. And I say exclusive because it's exclusively for the College of Chemistry. So it's really going to be focused on students who are either chemistry, chemical biology, or chemical engineering majors, also biochemistry, or if you're minoring in chemistry. But the idea is that you want to develop your skills in chemistry or chemical engineering research to ideally, either use that for graduate school or for the future. So you will be doing chemistry or chemical engineering research. I'm going to introduce you. So just a couple logistics. We have pushed back the deadline for the application to February 15th. Initially, it was February 1st. So I'm going to share the application. Hopefully you've gotten an email with the application. So I'm going to talk you through it and then answer any questions you might have. And then whatever time we have remaining, I'm happy to stay on and answer whatever questions you have. And yeah, so we'll just go from there. So I'm going to share my screen. Also, if you have any questions while I'm speaking, please do not hesitate to unmute and just ask. I might not see if your hand is raised or if you put something in the chat, because I'm going to be sharing my screen and then talking through the application. So just unmute and ask a question. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I'd rather you ask as the question comes up. And then again, anything that might come up after, or even if you have general questions about going to graduate school or, any other advice that I can give you at this point, I'm happy to stay on and answer any other questions that you may have as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, is the application coming up on your screen? Yes? Yes? Okay. Something. You all can see the application? Just nod, or Dustin, I can see you. Yes? Okay, great. Okay, so this is the College of Chemistry application. It kind of gives you a little bit of background about, what we're doing as far as why we're running this program, what you're going to have a chance to do. Logistics again, this is a 9-week program. It will run June 10th to August 10th. We will provide, we say travel costs covered up to $600, but we'll make sure that you get a round trip ticket covered. If it's like $600 or $700, it's fine. We just put that on there to kind of give like a little bit of a budget, but you'll get a round trip ticket to and from your home location, or to and from your school, wherever it is that you are right before June 10th. It will include also a $5,500 stipend, and then we will provide housing, and we'll give you a $1,200 stipend for food as well, that you can either use to purchase a meal plan or just add it on top of your stipend and take care of food yourself. To participate in this program, we do say that you must be a rising sophomore, junior, or senior in an institution. So this can be any undergraduate institution, whether it's a 4-year, a community college, a primarily undergraduate institution, etc. We do say that students who have already graduated with a bachelor's degree are not eligible. However, I don't think this applies to anyone on this call, but if someone has recently graduated, or for example, has just graduated right now, winter, and they want to apply for graduate school next year, we do allow you to say, please contact our email if you have questions about eligibility, or if you feel that an exception to these eligibility requirements should be considered. Okay, so if you have recently graduated, but you have a compelling case for why this research opportunity would really add to your case. And this is going to be specifically for students who really have a strong desire to go to graduate school. What we want to avoid is students who are just can't find a job yet and are wanting to get like something to hold over time before they find a job, you know? So that's what we're trying to avoid. The other big requirement is that you must be 18 and over. And also, so you know, we're not necessarily looking for students that have previous research experience. So if you don't have that yet, don't worry about that. Applications will close February 15th. Okay. So this first part is very straightforward. What is your preferred name, date of birth, phone number, email, address, and then we ask you to confirm your eligibility. So that's pretty straightforward. Also, we ask you to commit to the fact that you understand that this is a full-time research program. So it's 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in the lab. We don't expect you to work weekends at all. In fact, we're going to be having a couple students on our end who will help plan activities and fun things that you can do on the weekends. I want to make sure that you do take that time for yourselves, and we're going to have some community building. We will also have some professional development workshops, like, for example, presenting a scientific paper, putting together a scientific poster, how to network, how to build relationships with professors, all that kind of stuff, but that will be included in your 40 hours a week. So it's not in addition. Okay. So your work day will be your research and then the professional development activities that we include as well. So, but we do want you to commit that you will not simultaneously enroll in a summer class or any other, or that you don't have like another job, you know, at the same time, because this is time intensive. And I will tell you from personal experience, I did a summer research program at Berkeley when I was an undergrad. And I also decided to enroll in Bio 1A that same summer because I just thought I was so cool. And I was already a mechanical engineering and material science major, but I wanted to apply to a biomedical engineering PhD. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to show them that I also have a bio background? And they told me Bio 1A in the summer is a full-time job, especially UC Berkeley Bio 1A. It's like a pre-med weeder class. And I was like, no, I got it. And I did that and my full-time research program, and I took the Bio 1A pass, no pass, and I got a no pass because I had no time to dedicate to the class. So I ended up shooting myself in the foot. It wasn't even a class that I needed. Luckily, it didn't affect my admissions, but I really learned my lesson. So I'm really glad that programs now are saying to students, you actually cannot, you know, do this at the same time because it's to your detriment. We really want you to focus on just doing the best research you can do, more than anything, because this is your chance, especially if you have your sights set on coming to UC Berkeley. This is your chance to build a relationship with a graduate student mentor or a postdoc mentor, and especially with the PI in your lab. Because that PI, if you build a strong relationship with them and you really impress them, they can write you a very strong letter. And in fact, you know, they could decide that they want to sponsor you to come to graduate school, you know, in the future. And if you have your mind in 10 different places and you don't have that time to really focus on doing the best research you can and developing that relationship, then you lose that opportunity, you know, because I'll tell you that they're the ones that are ultimately picking our students for grad admission. And I can tell there are students who have come here to do research through other programs, and those students are getting sponsored by the faculty because they've been impressed with those students when they were in the lab. So, okay. Oops. Oh no, is it not letting me go through? Oh, okay. So what I need to do is actually go into the back end of this. Okay, hang on a second. I didn't foresee this. I need to go into the back end of the form. So quick pause. Okay. Oops. Oh, no. Okay. All right. I can do it this way. Okay. So we ask your contact information. We ask you to confirm your eligibility. Okay, everyone can still see? Yes? Destiny, nod your head because I can see your face. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we ask a little bit of demographic information. Again, this is so that we can collect a little bit more information about you and also so we can start to collect data on our applicant pool, our students. These are not any questions that will be used in your evaluation. And in fact, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. So please answer, we say, please answer the following questions if you feel comfortable doing so. So gender, pronouns, racial, ethnic background, whether you're a US citizen or not, whether you identify as someone that has a disability. I personally do, I have ADHD. Whether you identify as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, what is the highest level of education by your parents, and then anything else that you'd like us to know about you. Again, whatever you're comfortable asking there, that helps us collect more data. When we want to, for example, write grants to further support these kinds of programs, we can give them more data and information about who is our applicant pool, who are we doing outreach to, who are we targeting, et cetera. And so again, it has no bearing on your admission to the program. Okay, academic background. So what is your current institution? And then, we ask you to identify if this is a community college, an HBCU, an HSI, primarily undergraduate institutions. So that's like some of the state schools that don't have PhD programs. That's what that means, or none of the above. When do you expect to graduate? What is your major? And then we do have you upload your unofficial transcript. So this is where you have a chance to do that. Then goals and motivations. So we ask you for 2 statements. This is, and I'm just going to read this through. It says, this section asks you to reflect on your goals, motivations, and interests for applying to the UC Berkeley College of Chemistry Summer Undergraduate Research Diversity Program. These short statements are an opportunity for you as an applicant to provide the selection committee with additional information and/or context to evaluate your application. We encourage you to draft your statements in the word processor and then copy and paste it in the form. I am not putting a word limit on these statements. I do suggest 500 to 1,000 words for the interest statement, and then 500 words for the related experiences statement. But I don't like to put a strong word limit because, sometimes students have really, really interesting stories, and I don't want them to stress about cutting it off in 500 words or cutting it off. Like if it's 1,200 words, that's okay, but we do encourage that you stay on topic. And, one of the things that I encourage is that you review the College of Chemistry website and look at the chemistry department. This is the chemistry research, all the chemistry research areas. And these are all faculty who are part of the chemistry department. And when you click on, for example, green chemistry, Brooks Abel, when you click on his page, it tells you more about him. And then you can click on his research group and you get a chance to see, what is his research group doing? What is it all about? What are they focused on? So here's the team research. You read more about the research they're doing. And you don't have to necessarily do this for every single faculty. That's going to take you a really long time. But we do encourage you to get familiar with what kind of research, it's not even like what kind of research necessarily you want to do this summer, although there is a section where we ask you that. But when you talk about why do you want to go to graduate school? Or I know one of you mentioned that you are interested in a PhD, MD, this is where in the interest statement, this is where we say, what is your motivation for your field of study and your reasons for applying for this program? And how is your participation in the program going to assist you in your future academic goals and/or career plans? And then we also ask you to please include how your identity and lived experience may influence your goals and how you will contribute to the diversity and equity of the campus community. So this is where we really want to know, why chemistry or why chemical engineering? I don't think there's any chemical engineers on the call today, but why chemistry? What first motivated you to study chemistry? Where did that motivation come from? What is it about chemistry that really fascinates you? What do you want to do overall? And we know that you all are still young, you may not know, but at this moment, what do you think you want to do? And then how will doing research this summer at UC Berkeley in the College of Chemistry advance your goals towards what you want to do? And I personally really like to read, you know, at this moment in time, if you could do any kind of, like, if you could make any kind of the impact with a chemistry degree in the world, what would you want to do? For example, and also in some ways, like, how does your identity tie into what your goals are? So let me give you an example. For example, for me, I was exposed to, I mean, I had a mechanical engineering internship. I discovered that I liked mechanical engineering, but when I came to UC Berkeley and started taking my upper division classes, I didn't really love manufacturing or like cars, or this is the early 2000s. So these were the things that were big at that time. MEMS was another one, like micro electrical mechanical systems, like chips. But when I took a class in biomaterials and I learned about the idea of, you know, engineering materials that actually improve health, that really sparked my interest. And then when I started studying more about all of the health issues in the world, I got really interested in global health issues because my parents are immigrants from very poor areas in Latin America. And it's very, like, a lot of health issues in Latin America and in Africa are very neglected. And there's a lot of ways in which technology could really address issues that are quite neglected. So I realized, like, I want to use, you know, microfluidics and the fact that, like, the miniaturization of the lab onto these microchips to develop small diagnostics that were really needed in developing countries that could be used in a field without refrigeration or without expensive infrastructure, that could be used, like, kind of this lab on a chip mentality. And I just, like, and it tied into, like, I got really, really motivated to making an impact in global health. And that also tied into my identity because it's issues that are very, very close to me because of my family and where they're from and what they taught me about, you know, health conditions in Latin America, et cetera. And so I wrote very strong statements to graduate school at that time about, you know, what I wanted to do. And I think it really resonated because when I visited grad programs, these faculty remembered my statements, you know. Now, it's like, I talk to a lot of students in conferences and such, and a lot of times they'll tell you, like, I'll say, what do you want to study? Oh, I just want to get like a chemistry PhD. And then I say, well, what do you want to do with that? And they're like, I don't know. But then when I start pushing them, like, if you could do anything, like, what would you want to do? Like, you guys have, like, really specific, like, some of you are very interested in, like, the development of holistic medications, for example, and using, like, plant-based substrates and natural substrates to develop medications that would be less toxic to the body. I mean, this is some of the common things that I've heard. There are also, like, sustainability issues. I met, like, a Latinx student at a conference whose parents are from the Central Valley, where they're exposed to a lot of pesticides in the agricultural business, and they want to develop, like, more sustainable, less toxic pesticides, you know, for the agricultural farm workers, because their families are farm workers. And so that's kind of like what we're asking here. Like, what are you studying and why are you studying it? And what are your goals? Now, I know that your goals are likely going to change a million times over. It's not like you're making a commitment to these goals, but it's kind of like we want to push you to think about what is the contribution you want to make. And we really want to also push you to think about, like, how familiar are you with where chemistry research is, which is why we say to check out this website, to really look at all of the different research that's happening at UC Berkeley and figure out what resonates with you. Some of you may not know. And so maybe looking through and reading, like, what is happening in materials, polymers, and nanoscience? What is happening in green chemistry? What is happening in organic chemistry? You know, what are the faculty working on? What are they working on in physical chemistry? You know, what are they working on in chemical biology? Because if you don't quite know what is your niche, as you start to read what different faculty are working on, some things are going to excite you more than others, you know? So pay attention to what excites you more than others, and then see, like, what is it that you're interested in and write about it. You know, like, if you just say, I'm so-and-so, I decided I wanted to study chemistry because I liked my first chemistry class and I want to get a PhD in chemistry because it's going to get me a good job. That's not inspiring. Like, we want to hear, like, you know, what are your goals? What are the things unique to you? Like, we want to learn about you as an individual, you know? So that's where, and I'll tell you right now, like, that's what myself and our committee is going to be looking at, these essays more than anything else, over your transcript, over what school you go to, over if you've had previous research or not. Like, that's what we're going to look at first and foremost, is these 2 essays. So are there any questions on like kind of what we're looking at in that first statement of interest? Maybe not yet. Okay. So the other thing is, like, we want to know a little bit more.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, when you're talking about like a interest and basically like a passion statement, for a person that like doesn't have research experience and like has only really been introduced like through chemistry, through like classes, like
Hmm?
what would you suggest when like leaning on to their identity experiences and like their interest within chemistry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. Actually, I had only been, before I started getting all these grandiose ideas of what I wanted to do, I started forming all these ideas based on just my first class in biomaterials and talking to people, talking to faculty, and then also just going online. I did this myself. I liked biomaterials, so I went and I just like, in fact, at that time, UC Berkeley was just starting their Department of Bioengineering. So I went onto their website. I looked to see where the field was going, what faculty were doing. And I started to read about like where the research was going. And I just like, I did a lot of like Google searches. I talked to new faculty that were coming, and I started to form my ideas. And none of this was based on research I had already done. This is all before I even had my first research experience. I just was getting a really strong idea of what I was interested in. So that's why I say, if you have no idea and you've only been exposed, then first start with like, in your minimal exposure, what has already captured your interest to the point where you want to apply to this program and you want to come to Berkeley and do research for 9 weeks this summer, Then when you want to talk about like, what are your goals, or like potentially how would you like to, what is your motivation for the field of study? That's why I say, take a look at a website like this, or you could even do it. I mean, every university has a website. The top programs in chemistry right now are UC Berkeley, MIT, and Caltech. So you could also look at like Caltech and MIT. You could do this here and get an idea of what's happening right now in the field of chemistry. And what is it about what's happening in the field of chemistry that interests you? Take a couple hours one day, look through this website and look at these different faculty, read about their research, and pay attention to which one of these faculty's research interests you, excite you, and why, and then just write about like, these are the things I'm interested in right now, and this is why. It's
Thank
not,
you.
yeah, it's not necessarily, we don't expect it to be informed by the research you've already been exposed to. Plus, I'll be honest, sometimes it's very much a roll of the dice. Like, y'all, and I encourage you to do this, please, like apply to, there are RU programs all over the country. And so you should apply. Our program should be one of several that you apply to. And a lot of times when you get in a research lab, it's very much a roll of the dice with what research you end up doing. And a lot of times you get a first research experience or a second research experience, and it gives you experience on doing research, but your overall like longer term research is different than what you had in your first experience, because your first experience was kind of like a roll of the dice of where you ended up, and then it taught you to do research, and it made you realize that you really do love research, but then your interests actually lie beyond that. It's not necessarily related to what you did in your first research experience. So this is just more like, it's an exercise that you can do to get you thinking about, what are your interests right now? What gets you excited? Like when you read 10 different faculty stuff, which of the 10 faculty's things, like which one was most exciting for you? And then think about why. Sometimes I tell students to like actually just journal about why that research is interesting to them. Like, what is their understanding of the world and problems in the world that need attention? And why does that research excite them when it comes to like, what are problems in the world that you're interested in solving, and how does that research excite you and give you hope for like how that research may actually address some of those problems that are interesting to you? And these are kind of like the kind of skills that like, I mean, I feel like all undergraduate curriculum should have a class that is called like career exploration or like personal interest exploration, where you do these exercises, you know, to figure out what are your passions. A lot of people just go to school and they're focused on getting top grades and getting their degree and then just getting a job that's going to pay them enough to like, you know, sustain themselves. But then they're not like, pursuing a career with passion or that's necessarily aligned with their interests, and eventually to get burnt out because they're like, I don't even like this stuff. I just kind of like was going through the motions all the way through. So these are pointers that I'm giving you to start to question yourself, because all of you are studying chemistry. And I have to say, chemistry for me was my least favorite subject in school. Least favorite. And if you look at my transcript, it's where I had the worst grades. Like I did not do well in chemistry. Chemistry is not easy for most people. So the fact that all of you have chosen to study chemistry or biochemistry is already like you have a calling for that. It's not something that like everybody just goes and studies. It's not common, you know? And so then I'm kind of like pushing you to explore, what is that calling? Where is it coming from? You know, and what are you interested in doing in the world when it comes to, you know, with your chemistry degree or with your advanced chemistry degree, you know? Does that make sense? Yes?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So that's the first statement, and that's kind of like the key statement. Now, this next one is where we want to just know a little bit more about you. So we say, you know, provide any information regarding relevant work experience. For example, have you already had an internship? Have you already had some research experience? Tell us about that. If you don't have relevant work experience, it's totally fine, you know. And then also, what extracurricular activities are you involved in? What leadership experience do you have? Like what it says skills, et cetera, since entering your current institution. So for example, what summer jobs have you done, work study, academic clubs, or even personal clubs? What are some things that basically give us a more holistic view of who you are, you know? And then we also would love to hear about, you know, specifically, please emphasize any actions you have taken to be involved in a way that contributes to increased diversity, equity, and inclusion in your community. This is a diversity program. It's being sponsored by the Diversity Fund and run by the Chief Diversity Officer. So one of our focuses is also in empowering scientists who are going to make diverse contributions in the world. So if you've been involved in like clubs or anything that, you know, outreach or scientific outreach for like middle school students or anything, like we love to hear about that kind of stuff. Or we also just kind of want to hear a little bit more about who you are, you know? So yeah. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Again, this is a, like, if this is the priority statement, the interest statement, this is the one we're most interested in. This is going to give you this is going to give us a little bit more information about who you are. So this one, we suggest approximately 500 words, this one 500 to 1,000, but again, there's no strict word limit. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. This is a third statement. And this section is actually not required, but you know, we say like any obstacles or extenuating circumstances, please feel free to add a short statement that summarizes significant obstacles you've overcome in your life, educational journey, and or any extenuating circumstances that have impacted your academic performance that you would like us to consider in reviewing your application. Again, this is not required. So for example, if you're first in your family to go to college and you've had to navigate, you know, going to college without the guidance of your parents, because maybe your parents are not college educated, if you have had significant financial burden and have had to work 40 hours a week or 20 hours a week to help sustain your education, and that has impacted you in some way, you know, if you have a learning disability that's really that you've had to navigate and overcome. I mean, for me, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a community college student. And once I was finally properly diagnosed, everything turned around for me, and including my transcript, because suddenly I got extra time on tests. So then like my grades became much better. So there was like, I talked about that because it would explain, you know, like why I had a certain level of performance and then suddenly it was a much higher level of performance, you know? There are students that like one quarter in school, they got really sick or they got COVID and they had to drop the semester. So their grades are like good, they're getting A's, a few B's, and then suddenly one semester is like all C's or a whole bunch of withdrawals. And then here they write about where that came from, you know, like what is that blip? And it kind of explains that. Again, this is not required, so if there isn't anything extenuating, you don't have to write it, but it does give you a chance to write about it if you've been impacted by significant obstacles. Okay? I mean, other obstacles too, like when I became a graduate student, I was the only woman of color in my PhD program. I suffered from a lot of imposter syndrome in that, and that impacted me a lot as well. So, you know, this would be a place later on where I would write about that. But, so, you know, yeah, it can be any number of things. Okay. Now, this is where we want you, because maybe I think different programs do this different ways, but what we are going to do is admit, 3 to 5 students. This is small, so it's a pilot. So it's a very small program this year. But we will be tying you in and doing community building and things with other research programs that are on campus. So you have more of a community as well. But, you'll be admitted to the program first, and then we're going to use this next part of the application to try to pair you with a PI or a lab that matches your interests, So as opposed to just getting admitted directly to a PI's lab, So this is where, if you're just interested, if you're very open right now and you're just interested in like anything chemistry related, you can click this first box, or this is where we encourage you to use the website to figure out like which, basically these choices came straight out of the website, so you basically will indicate all the areas that you're interested in. And then once you're admitted, we will use this to go out and find specific labs for you, like a match based on your interests. Okay. So we say you're encouraged to check as many interests as possible. We can't promise that there are opportunities in every area. For example, you might really like atmospheric, but there might not be any PIs that have an opening in their lab this summer. So don't just click one, because if you just click one and that area doesn't have any openings, then it's really going to limit. You probably won't get in, because we'll be like, they won't be happy in the lab that they're in, So we encourage you to check as many as possible. And then for chemical engineering, it's the same. This comes straight from the chemical engineering website. So that's just for the purpose of the recording. Let me also show any chemical engineering students. So these are the 4 areas, and these are all the faculty in chemical engineering as well. So if you're interested in anything here, then you can click those areas. So basically you're going to click all the areas of research that are interesting to you. Okay. Then this is a chance where you can say, and I do encourage you to look through the PIs and pick, maybe 3 to 5, or actually, I don't say here, if you have a specific lab or labs that you're interested in, please list them here in order of interest by PI. So you can list, I'm going to add here, it is recommended that you, because this is where we're really going to use this. Once you're admitted and you say, I like the Dean Toast lab, I like the Brooks Ava lab, we're going to contact Dean Toast and be like, hey, will you take a student? And we'll do it based in order of interest. But if you don't give us any, or if you're really just genuinely open to anyone, cool. But again, and this isn't a promise, like we might not be able to get you placed in your top 5. And then at that point, once you're in, we can let you know, this is the lab we can get you a spot in. And then you decide if you want that or not, but this is really your chance where we will do our best to figure out a lab, or if we know that like you like your top choice is the Dean Toast lab, but we know personally that there are 2 or 3 other labs that are like his lab, then we could also try to find you a placement in one of those 2 or 3 labs as well. So I do encourage you to do this just as an exercise. It's not a promise, but this is where you have a chance to have some autonomy in the lab that you're choosing. Okay. So this is where you would look again at this website, look through all of the faculty here and figure out which one. Just an FYI, the 2 Changs here under green chemistry, and they're also listed, are gone. They're leaving us for Princeton. So don't list them. Michelle Chang and Christopher Chang are leaving. but everyone else is still here. So this is a chance for you to select labs that you're interested in and give us a chance to try to find you the best fit.
I did have a question.
Yes.
My university doesn't offer green chemistry courses. Do we
Mhm.
have to have a background in green
No,
chemistry?
no,
Okay.
absolutely not. Yeah. So absolutely not. So you don't have to have a background in green chemistry. It's also a lot of times those classes, they're like upper division elective classes, you know? So and a lot of universities don't necessarily offer that like coursework there. So you absolutely don't, we want you to have a foundation in chemistry, you know, have taken like your introductory chemistry classes and ideally inorganic, organic chemistry. But that's it at this point. And then that gives you enough of a foundation to do research. So don't worry about having, like, for example, I wouldn't pick chemical and biomolecular engineering, theory, computational systems, and machine learning when you've never even had a computer science class. Like that's an example of where you don't have the background because there are computer science classes that you can take starting from freshman year. And, you know, obviously they're going to want you to go into a lab like that and code or do like something with machine learning. And if you've never even had a computer science class, that's where you'd be missing like some core coursework. But for green chemistry, no, don't worry about that. Okay.
Okay, alrighty. And then everything else that we like have questions about, you just say to look further into it on the website, and that'll pretty much like let us know like where the class is at as far as intellectual level, the research is at.
Um, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I see with lack of background is when people are wanting to do really high level theoretical work or computational work or machine learning and data systems analysis work. Everyone in the lab, for example, does work on Python and a student wants to get into that lab but has never even taken Python, which is a computer programming language, you know? I have a student right now that I'm mentoring and she really wants to get into, she wants to focus on computational and get into a computational research lab. And the faculty's telling her like, listen, take these 2 classes first, then I'll give you a chance, you know? But as far as core chemistry, like all of you, I think are sophomores or above. So you've taken freshman, like general chemistry, you know? And I think some of you, like if you want to do organic and you haven't taken organic chemistry yet, that may or may not be a deal breaker, but you know, the classes that you take in your first year of a chemistry major should be sufficient for most of the research opportunities here, with the exception of like the labs, the really theoretical labs that focus on higher level, kind of like computer science work. So I would not worry so much about whether your coursework, unless for whatever reason you're a chemistry major and you haven't taken chemistry yet, then that's a problem, you know? But I think at most institutions, if you're a chemistry major, you start with like gen chem, you know, and then you go to inorganic chem. So if you have that under your belt, I know at community college, they take gen chem, 3/4 of gen chem, and then inorganic and organic chemistry, even at community college level. So if you have that under your belt, or you'll have it under your belt by the time the summer comes, I would not worry beyond that. Okay.
Okay, alrighty, thank you.
Okay. All right. So letters of recommendation. We require 1 letter of recommendation, but you can submit up to 2. So recommendations should come from someone that you've had as a professor, mentor, or advisor and can speak to your ability potential as a student or researcher. So you have to pick 1 person. You should let them know early. Like, in fact, for all of you, you should let them know by now, like around now, that you would like a letter from them. I know when I get requested a letter, I like to know a month ahead of time, but sometimes 2 weeks ahead of time is also fine. We are a little bit late. So in fact, we're giving your recommenders until the end of February. So for students, for example, I'm going to go to the East Coast in early February to do some outreach to HBCUs. And so I know that some students are going to be finding out about this program in early February. So they can still like let people know 2 weeks before the deadline. And we don't have any specific format. We just want them to write a 1-page letter, you know, and send it to us. Like they don't have to answer a whole bunch of questions or do like 5,000-word essays, which I've been asked when it comes to letters. And then in fact, if you have 2 people, not required, but if you have a second person that you also feel could really speak to your skills, then you could also have a second letter, but it's not required. Just the 1 letter is required. Okay. So there's that. So you're almost done. We're almost done. So we just ask, how did you hear about the program? And that's it. Once you submit, you won't be able to go back and edit the form. But if there are any issues or, you know, I don't anticipate that we're going to have hundreds of applications. This is a brand new program. I'm barely starting heavy outreach like through email from now, you know, so if there's an issue or you'd like to redo your essay or resubmit, just email me. This is the email. This email goes directly to my inbox, and then I'll also put my email here in the chat, just marissa.yáñez@berkeley.edu. If it's before the deadline and you'd like a chance to submit like a second application, or you got some feedback on your essay, or for whatever reason there's any issues, just email me, and it's probably fine to submit a second version of your application. So that's it when it comes to the application. So now this is perfect timing. We have 10 minutes left. So I'm going to stop sharing screen, and I just want to give you a chance to ask any questions that might come up. So
my final question was, with the recommendations, once we put the information in and submit it, you guys reach out and like send a form to them and go from there?
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you ask the question again?
Oh, so once we put in our professor's email and information for the recommendation, are they supposed to email you guys, or like are they going to get
Great question.
notified?
Okay. So first of all, you should ask the professor that you're going to ask first. Say, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? And in fact, this is actually a great question. When people ask me for a letter of rec, I always ask them to send me 1 to 2 pages of highlights that they would like me to emphasize in my letter. It's almost like I ask them to write the letter for me, but it's not that I'm asking them to write the letter for me. I just like, it makes it so much easier for me. Like, for example, if I had an intern that worked for me 4 years ago, and they're still asking me for letters of rec for whatever reason, which happens, and I can hardly even remember this student, then they write me 2 pages and they say, in this experience, I did this, I developed this curriculum, I taught these group of students, my leadership skills, these particular students reached out to me even after, I'm a strong mentor. I'm like, oh, like it triggers me. So then I can write about all that specific stuff because I remember all of that. Then I remember it, but it's almost like they've really helped me write that letter. So I would ask them for a letter, and then even ask them, like, can I send you a 1-page on things that I'd love for you to emphasize? And they will likely say yes, because it really helps them to write the letter, you know? And then what happens is you'll ask them, they'll say yes, then you'll enter their information on our thing, and they will get an email from us, from Jotform, saying you've been selected as a recommender. Please upload your letter and reply, and simply send it to us by hitting reply to this email. So that happens automatically. But sometimes students, for whatever reason, don't actually ask me. And then I get that email from the system that says you've been selected as a recommender. And it's annoying because I'm like, they didn't even ask me if they could include me. And then I don't know, sometimes I have bandwidth to write a letter, sometimes I don't, you know, and I'm just like, but I'm also just annoyed because I'm like, they should have asked me first, you know, but I don't think I've ever not done it. I think only in one case, it was like the last minute and I wasn't actually able to do it because it was not enough notice. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend that you do. Okay. And then, so you let them know. And then when you put in, let them know, once I submit my application, I'm going to put your name down. And then in fact, you could even let them know Okay, now you should have gotten the email, because then if they don't, for whatever reason, they don't get the email, once you submit your application, that should trigger the email to them. So I would check with them. Did you get the email from them? I have students do this. And then if the letter is due like February 28th, I would even then email them a couple days before and just say, just a reminder that the letter is due February 28th. Please submit it if you haven't done so already. So you kind of stay on top of them and make sure that they submit the letter. Does that make sense? But they will, once you submit the application, it will trigger an email to them, and they will be asked to simply upload their letter and reply to the email that was sent to them.
Yep, that makes total sense to me. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Does it matter if the professor is in like the Department of Chemistry at our college or not?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
I have
Thank
a question.
Yes.
If we come across a PI whose research we're really interested in, would you recommend that we just reach out to them through an email and ask them if they'll have an open spot in the summer?
You can try.
Okay.
And I would CC you, I would CC me on that email. You can definitely try, say that you're applying to the College of Chemistry Summer Research Program and you're wondering if they would have a slot to take a student. They may reply, they may not reply. They may put you in touch with their grad students and ask their grad students, because it's really the grad students that decide to mentor a student. It's not the PI directly. So, but it's definitely worth a shot. Yeah. And if there's someone that you're really interested in, and it's a really make or break for you to decide whether you even want to do our program, you can let me know once you apply, and I can also ask them, would you be willing to take a student? Because I know that this does influence whether you decide, once you get in, if you even decide to choose our program. I think that we're going to do our best to start letting like the first round of students who are admitted know by the beginning of March. And I'm going to do my best to have an answer for you as to what lab we can match you with. So it's a lot that I'll be doing in those 2 weeks, a lot of communication, but it's small numbers. So I think I can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have another question.
Yes.
How strongly does GPA play a role in like being selected for the experience?
So I think we don't have a strict GPA cutoff, but I think it's going to be more difficult if you have below a 3.0. And I'm just going to be completely transparent with you all. Like, I just got through grad admissions, or I'm getting through, like I'm in the midst of being part of grad admissions for the chemistry department. And part of our goal was to create this program to create a better pipeline of students who have exposure to our faculty first. And then our faculty can vouch for them to come in and do research. I was astounded at, like, for example, on the synthetic side, the GPA it's so high. The average GPA of our admit class is so high. I actually shouldn't give a number right now, but it's like they're almost looking at almost perfect GPAs. And I am pushing back and saying, if all you're looking for is almost perfect GPAs, then why are we even doing the summer research program? Or we should also put more emphasis on GPAs. And what a faculty told me is he said, listen, do your summer research program. Because even if a student doesn't have an almost perfect GPA, they have a slightly lower GPA, if they come into a lab and really impress a faculty, and that faculty is like, I want to bring this student on, I want to sponsor this student for grad students. Because what happens with grad admissions, at least right now, is like the faculty who are taking students basically look at the pool of applications and they select their top 5 students. And if you've done research with them and you've really won them over, then they'll put you in their top 5, even if you don't have that almost perfect GPA. Now this is kind of like the earlier stage of the grad admissions, you know? So being part of grad admissions has like influenced, because I just realized how much GPA, a strong, like an almost perfect GPA, is important when it comes to grad admissions. And I am going to advocate that we publish the average GPA of admits on our website because it's so high. And I think students should know that I'm not telling any students to not apply, but they should also like not put all of their bet on just UC Berkeley because it's just so competitive. Now, for me, I could care less about GPA. And to be transparent, I got into both UC Berkeley and all my grad programs. And I got into, but this was 20 years ago. Things have changed, you know? With a 3.3, I got into MIT, Stanford, Berkeley for grad programs with a 3.3, but I had exceptional research. I had won national competitions in my field when it came to technical presentations. I was extraordinarily active on campus, and I don't know, I think I also had really strong letters because I had done research with big names in the field and they wrote really strong letters for me. But today, I would not get in with my GPA. It just, things have changed. So personally, I don't care about GPA, but it's so competitive with faculty here that it does matter somewhat. But I don't want you to not apply because of your GPA, you know? So I know that's a very messy answer. I don't have a straightforward answer. What I can tell you is myself and our committee that I was like, you know, we have this committee that's going to be evaluating applications. GPA is not our number one thing that we look at. But as we look at what the faculty are really looking at, we do also want to send them students that they will then consider at the graduate level. And right now that's almost like at least at the graduate level, it's like very high. So if you want to stay on after everyone else and tell me what your GPA is and I can give you better advice, you know, but I don't want any of you to not apply to our program because of GPA. Please, like, we don't have a GPA minimum. I know some research programs have like a 3.0 minimum. We don't have a minimum. And also this is the first time we're doing this. So we need to see, like, we might find some students who do exceptional research that have a lower GPA, and then we can advocate for like, hey, GPA shouldn't be everything because these students are coming in and doing exceptional research, you know? But, and what I will also tell you is that they don't just look at overall GPA, but they look at the grades for grad admissions specifically that you got in your chemistry classes, you know, like in your major classes. So, yeah, but for me and for our program specifically, it is not the most important thing. It's definitely not how we're going to rank our students. I'm looking first and foremost for the essays, like, and I'll tell you just kind of like, it's, I mean, I'm saying off the record, but kind of off the record is like, but it's obviously on the record because this is a recording, that our goal is for this program to empower you to prepare you for the next step. So if you want to go just into industry after and you write about like, and you don't actually want to go into research, then I don't know if this summer research program is the best fit for you, you know, because maybe you should go out and do an industry internship, you know? So it's also how well does this program fit into what your overall goals are and how much will it advance your overall goals? And so that's why I really care about the essays specifically, you know? I don't know, that's like a very vague answer, but what I will tell you is it's not the number one determinant. So, and you guys are also still early, so there also is an opportunity for you guys to improve your GPAs when it comes to grad admissions. So that's why I say, like, please don't not apply because you think you have a lower GPA. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
So I shared with you that I am like a part of the MARC program, and
Yes.
I know if I were to get accepted, I could not. I talked with Dr. Gretchen, well, yeah, Dr. Gretchen Snyder, she said that I can't accept the money. So would I be able to stay in housing without like accepting the money, or how does that work?
You'll absolutely get housing.
That's
You'll
great.
absolutely also get the food stipend and the travel stipend. And I am astounded at if you can't accept the money, but maybe if you could accept, like, I don't, because I think you would get less than the 5,500, but maybe we could compensate the difference. I don't know. We'd have to work that out with you specifically, but yes, absolutely, you'll get housing, and absolutely you'll get the food stipend and the travel stipend as well. And I hope that we can give you some kind of, even a partial stipend that at least makes it so that you're getting the same as everyone else, you know, with your funding on top of, you know, like if we can compensate the difference. But we can work that out. But to answer your question, yes, you'll absolutely get housing and food and travel.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording.